Welcome to another episode of the Reboot Chronicles, a no-holds-barred forum with global leaders, authors, entrepreneurs, and CEOs about how organizations stay focused on growth and innovation in unprecedented times. I'm your host, Dean Tobias, coming to you live from Reviv's North American headquarters in Chicago, and we would like to thank you for joining us from around the globe today. I'd like to welcome Genentech CEO Alexander Hardy to the Reboot Chronicles. Pioneering the biotech industry back in the 70s, for gosh sake, Genentech is one of the world's most innovative pharmaceutical companies and a leader in breakthrough life-saving drugs, treatments, technologies, and other things that we'll hear about. Now part of Roche, the combined entities have tens of thousands of patents and employ over 100,000 employees in over 100 countries who delivered over 68 billion in revenue last year alone. So just an amazing company. Alexander, it's so good to see you.
Dean, it's a pleasure to be here. Looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, thanks for making time. I've always been a big fan of Genentech, working in Silicon Valley so long over the years, and had a couple of meetings at your place, but I think things have changed. So I just normally don't do this, but I think it'd be great to just start out with telling us a little bit about what's the size and scope of Genentech now. You've got 13,000 employees. You've got science-based people, business-based people. It's just what's it all about these days, and what's the core mission? If you could maybe start us out there.
Well, the core mission is unchanged. Focus on breakthrough science to address severe, significant unmet medical needs. Focused on therapeutics, but really it's breakthrough science. So we are innovation pure play. As a combined company, we spend $15 billion a year on research and development.
Amazing.
Which puts us up at, towards the top of any company in any industry, top in our industry in terms of investment.
Right.
And yes, it's all about innovation. So we have 39 drugs that have achieved breakthrough treatment designation from the FDA. That's a good benchmark of innovation against significant unmet medical need, because the FDA awards those when they see innovation that's really, really important medically. So That's a very, very important benchmark. We've launched 22 drugs over the last 12 years. And again, these are focused on therapeutics towards, the most significant medical issues that the world faces. So heritage in oncology, very large in neuroscience, growing in ophthalmology, a significant presence in anti-infectives, because we believe that that's so important from a public health standpoint. It's really challenging science, but we're drawn to the areas where there's a significant unmet need, but the science is challenging.
I bet. And it kind of, what I've always been impressed about, I haven't been to your facility probably in 10 years, and those stats are amazing, what you've done in the last decade, but I just love how you take the long view. Most public corporations sadly don't, or they can't. It's consumer driven. A lot of things change on a dime, whereas you're taking a long view, as are many of your competitors. And but you seem to optimize it better than others, just what I've seen from afar. You know when to push innovation, when to pull back, when to license, when to cooperate. And we can jump into all of that as well. But how do you kind of balance that out, that long-term view, that long-term, and making the big bets in the horizon versus what most CEOs, if you go down to Google, they're making long-term bets. It's not life or death technology. So that's number one. You're doing incredible transformative stuff, or you don't do it. You move on to the next one. But it seems to be so foreign to other companies as taking a 10-year view of not just the pipeline, but maybe just one product.
Well, part of it is the very nature of what we're trying to do. If you're trying to develop a breakthrough against a really tough, intractable disease, it's going to take time. And many of our drugs, many of our breakthroughs, we may touch on a few of them in this conversation, have taken 20 years to get from discovery to patients. And there's been a lot of trial and error during those times. So part of it is just the nature of what we're trying to do.
Right.
That leads us to take a long-term view. But I do think we're differentiated even in our industry by our focus on the longer term. Part of that is actually Genentech's always been that way. We have a very conscious decision as a leadership team that we don't focus on the quarter or the year. We focus on the next 5 to 10 years. We set really ambitious goals around the 5-10 year mark, and that's what we hold ourselves and the organization aligned on. But we also have a benefit. Genentech is part of the Roche Group, has been since 2009, and the Roche Group is actually been a really good place for Genentech to be part of. It's a large global company, and they have a unique shareholding structure where they have two classes of share and an involvement of a family shareholder base that have recently celebrated the 125th anniversary of the Roche Group. I mean, so even though we're 45 years old, they're 125 years old. The family members, many of them have the name of the company in their surnames.
Right.
The full name of Roche is Hoffmann-La Roche, and the Hoffmann family are still actively involved in the company, and that creates that long-term mindset is absolutely central to the way they think about it.
Yeah, there's two things I love about that. I remember when when you had the merger, technically merger is what it was. I think the two things that were smart was, it's another company that's very patient and knows how to invest capital and resources, but they also, in a way, left you alone. They could have, smushed Genentech into a bigger monster, and I love the fact that they didn't. You're still a core Silicon Valley company, and what does that mean in terms of your culture? What's it like now? Years later. I mean, you started there in 2005, for gosh sakes. You've been in many roles.
Yes. I mean, it was brilliant the way that Roche handled the acquisition and the integration of Genentech. I mean, I think it's a textbook example. Of course, I drank the Kool-Aid. I'm still here.
Yes, I know that feeling. Yes.
Yeah. But, there's, the people of Genentech, the leaders at Genentech had, lots of alternatives. And it was done really, really carefully and well. I mean, there is the line here at Genentech again. We've always known this, that our greatest assets are our people. They come into work every day. They can switch company. In the biotech, we're in the biotech industry. We're surrounded here in South San Francisco by small biotechs. Many of them have been founded by Genentech alumni.
Right.
But all the major players are around us because this industry, this biotech industry that we helped create, is now, really vibrant in the Bay Area. So we're constantly competing against talent. And, Roche really understood that the main asset that they were buying was the innovation at Genentech, and that comes from the ability to retain at the time of the merger, but then ongoing ability to attract the very, very best minds. And Genentech has done a really phenomenal job over time of really sitting in the sweet spot between academia and industry. So we're able to attract the very, very best scientists from tenured positions at top universities. When we call and say we have a key position heading up a lab at Genentech, they invariably, answer that call. They're invariably interested in talking to us, and they might not go to industry, but they go, I'll consider coming to Genentech and talking to you, and many do. Again, leaving tenured positions in academia, and that's pretty cool. And that's because we offer them, tremendous flexibility. They're able to continue to publish in a way which is very similar to the way they were able to do in academia. And of course, they've got the network effects. I know you're interested in, we'll talk a little bit about tech, but we know the network effects. They've got the ability to work with other phenomenal people.
Right.
So that is a momentum thing, the network effects of great talent attracting great talent. So all of these things have continued.
Yeah, I love that. I work a lot with the NSF, National Science Foundation, so we support and coach a lot of these university labs and help them. And Genentech and a couple other companies are ones that comes up when they always talk to me about the professors that some, they want to go into private industry, or they want to do their own startup, or they want to go work for you or a couple others. There's not too many that, because you kind of create this safe kind of bridge for them to go over and do it. And we're not just talking about Stanford, we're talking about all the universities around the world, right?
That's right.
So that was a brilliant move. Do you see two types of cultures? Do you have like a market facing one and the science lab one? When I was at AT&T, we did years ago, and they were one of the leading labs in the world. I always noticed it was two or three cultures. What's it like for you guys? You're more techie.
I think there's a lot more that binds people together culturally at Genentech
Yep.
than sets us apart. And no matter what your role at Genentech is, you're orientated towards the work that goes on in research and early development, where the breakthroughs happen. So that focus on science is something that no matter which area you're in, that passion for following the science, that's a phrase we use, and I think what does that mean? That means you listen. You listen to the science. What is the biology,
Right.
the biochemistry telling you, and you have a curiosity, and wherever that takes you is something we want to follow. So that's a really important element. And then everybody's focused on the patients. Dina, I know you said you visited our campus. If you're here on campus, you will see that we have pictures of patients on all the buildings, huge pictures of patients.
I love that. That's such a great common denominator.
Exactly. And any time we have a meeting, a town hall, a functional meeting, invariably we'll have a patient speaker who will talk about their journey in the particular disease they've got: cancer, multiple sclerosis, spinal muscular atrophy, and it just keeps it in the front of everybody's minds. So these are the things that sort of more bind us together. I think then there's we also talk about casual intensity. That's also an element of Genentech. So people take their jobs very, very seriously, but in a very casual way. And we like to have fun as we work hard. And that's a tradition going all the way back to our founders. Today, for example, this afternoon, when I was coming into this building, the receptionist reminded me that today we have one of our ho-hos. And these are informal gatherings. Used to be around a beer keg. Now we have more types of drinks on offer. But today is the bikers and blues.
I like it.
Ho-ho. And people are bringing along their motorbikes.
Nice.
And there is apparently a loudest motorcycle competition. So, this is sort of the fun stuff that we do. Big events around Halloween. The executive committee, dress up on Halloween every year, and we go around campus and go to every major building on campus and go to the cafeterias and hand out candy and these sorts of things. Keep it
real, because you guys are working on some heavy things. And I mean, you kind of throw out a term like innovation at Genentech, and it is a entirely different hurdle that you guys have. So, innovation at some of the Silicon Valley companies, I won't bring them up or make fun of them, is to me, it's actually easy. And they're happy with a mix of incremental, disruptive, and some transformative thrown in there now and then. I don't think you are. I think you are. You take a totally different lens. How do you manage that?
Yes, I mean, absolutely. I mean, we keep strategically very, very focused on innovation and thinking about what is the system, what is the operating model, which delivers the maximum amount of innovation. We believe that autonomy is really critical for scientists to follow their instincts. So I'll give you, you've already brought up, commercial folks,
Mm-hmm.
business folks, and the scientific folks. We leave the scientists very, very much alone from the marketing people, the business forecasting people. We let them follow the science, and there's autonomy as to the work they do. So, for example, Dean, I don't say to the head of research and early development, "Gosh, it would be great, respiratory is allergic asthma. It's a growing market.
Big, huge
There's not
category.
that many competitors. Find us a drug in allergic asthma." We don't work that way. A lot of other companies do sort of work that way. And around those research teams are swarming lots of business people who are doing forecasts on a drug which, as I've already mentioned, maybe 10 or 20 years away from the market, doing forecasts saying, you know what, this is not going to be attractive. Stop your work.
I've never seen an Excel
this?
spreadsheet go out that far in most companies.
Exactly. So, I think this is part of the secret sauce, which I've now revealed, to how we continue to innovate, and it leads us into areas that we've never been before. For example, we have the leading drug for hemophilia A. We had no presence in hemophilia A. It's the first antibody. We now have.
Is that like a serendipity thing? You have a lot of that serendipity stuff where you're researching one thing and you discover new types of cures and materials and technologies.
Yes, I mean it's not like the world of the small molecules and the well-known stories like Viagra, where a side effect which then becomes a therapy. It's more that
not that random, right?
It's not that random. A lot of this scientific breakthrough for us starts with a deep understanding of the biology.
Yeah.
And in many cases, the biology will take you into different sorts of diseases. For example, the immune system, immunology, is really incredibly exciting. It's been important for a long time in immune disorders. So diseases, obviously, like rheumatoid arthritis or multiple sclerosis, but it's now really important in cancer. Revving up the immune system to attack cancers is such a fertile ground. It's producing tremendous results in the fight against cancer. So that's an area where our first drugs we weren't sure in cancer immunotherapy. The original work was in other diseases, and then we realized their potential in cancer.
The the way I equate this as an innovation leader in a company, they say yes a lot to things. Your people at whatever level have to say no to a lot of things. It's your funnel, your pipeline is different than your funnel, but you must have certain gates where you opt out of things and figure out, hey, we're not commercializing this. So that is a unique skill. I think other industries could learn from you. Another thing that's rippling across these industries, we just had the CEO of Juniper Networks on and talked a lot about AI and how it's transforming mostly technology and networks for them. But tell us about AI and machine learning in your world. How is it changing? I guess you could do the market facing stuff or the research. I'm not sure what's more compelling right now to talk about, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
We can absolutely talk about both parts, but if I had a choice, I'd talk about it on the discovery and development.
Let's do that. Awesome.
Because again, that's at the heart of what we're about. We believe if we're really truly innovative, then all the other additional steps, of which there are many and many challenges, obviously getting a drug to patients, they're a lot easier if you've got really a breakthrough from an innovation standpoint. So that's again why we focus so much on this. I mean, I'd say the most telling fact that I can give you, which just indicates, I think, how important the promise of data and analytics is for life sciences, is the fact that our head of research and early development has been here about a year and a half. She joined during the pandemic. She joined from the Broad Institute at MIT Harvard. She is a computational biologist. We did not recruit to head up our storied and really significant research and early development organization. We did not recruit a drug developer. We did not recruit a biochemist. We think the future is going to be really defined, and innovation is going to be defined by those that can really harness large data sets. I mean, we clearly also have a very exciting developing understanding of biology and genomics. But if you can couple that with the ability to use advanced analytical techniques to use to interrogate huge data sets,
you can do so much.
Incredibly exciting.
Yeah, I mean, not just the discovery part, but you can actually compress the window. You can compress time. Because if you're looking at 10, 20 years, you can make an impact, whereas most innovation cycles might be a year to 2 years. Compressing a little time is not that big. But so time is probably a huge one. Are you finding it already happening across the industry, or is it still early days?
Yes, I mean, for our industry, that as you're touching on, Dean, that research and development phase, that's where we spend the huge part of our investment as an industry and as a company.
Yeah, you alone are 15 billion.
Yeah, 15 billion. Our ability to compress timelines, but also increase the probability of success. We fail more than we succeed, right? I mean, that's well known about life sciences.
If you known, understood, and embraced, not every other industry.
Absolutely. It's got to be understood and embraced. Anything we can do to slightly improve that success rate, has huge impacts in terms of the research productivity of your organization. And again, the use of machine learning and artificial intelligence. And I'll just explain a couple of ways we're doing it. We can predict a target. We can use it to design an optimum drug to connect with that target. We can predict very with high degree of accuracy the types of side effects that we're going to have to manage in our early development program.
Wow! Before testing, that's amazing.
And we can. One of the concepts that Aviv, the head of research and early development, Dr. Aviv Regev, is introducing is this lab in the loop, which is basically the ability to rapidly go between the data scientists and the experimental scientists in the lab, constantly refining the experiments and the work we're doing. So I feel like I'm giving away some of the secret sauce.
These are great secrets. Yeah. You can make fun of a lot of the guys at IDEO who are talking about the agile process. This is agile on steroids and some of the hardest technology to ever wrap your arms around. Oh my gosh,
it is.
That is amazing. The brings up another question. Sorry to jump around a little bit, but timing and everything. You've been there since 2005. Tons of different roles in Roche as well, and very well thought of, became the CEO. You've seen so much change in this company and in this industry. What leadership lessons have you learned along the way that you think are helpful for your own people, of course, to hear about, and as well as the audience?
I think one of the things that I've learned, and I'm continuing to learn, is really adapting my leadership. And when I say that, I think what I've realized is that to be an effective leader, you have to figure out, what is the unique contribution that you can bring as a leader, and focus on that and not on other things. Because you can you can inadvertently get in the way of other people. And empowerment and accountability are of the organization. I've already talked about and hopefully conveyed, how scientists feel really empowered and have a degree of autonomy. So, as a leader, my job is as a senior leader at Genentech is to set a vision for the organization, which everybody in the organization can relate to.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very much to focus on the operating model and optimize that. It's not to get involved in lots of decisions and create a hierarchy where things are gummed up because they're waiting to work their way up to other leaders or myself for decisions. So I think really what I've learned is, focus on what your unique contribution can be,
Right.
and be really disciplined about that.
I love that, and I know you're somewhat hands-on, but knowing what to get involved in and what not, but setting up the environment is such a tough thing for some CEOs because things are changing so much and changing so fast. And what I saw during COVID, we're going into 23 now, but it's there was a delayering process where a lot of the CEOs, they weren't even using their EAs and they were just down in the trenches. And I thought that was really helpful for companies, and for others, I think they actually changed their leadership style and probably shouldn't have gone too deep. But some of them were in emergency mode, like retailers, for instance, and you guys definitely were, where we saw all the big farmers cooperating with each other, and then the FDA and a lot of co-creation. And I thought it was a fascinating time to watch how companies, people, countries can come together. And do you think that's going to keep going? Because it seemed like a good thing to me.
I think it is going to keep going. I mean, it's we have to remain really conscious of pulling through those lessons and not reverting back to the way we used to operate. But I see the partnerships, both public-private and private-private partnerships. We partnered with some of our most formidable competitors. We were inspired and felt the sense of urgency addressing this global pandemic. And for example, one of the therapeutics that we're manufacturing at one of our largest manufacturing sites is a partnership with Regeneron. And in pre-pandemic and pre-pandemic times and in current times, we're vigorous competitors with them in a number of really important therapy areas. But we decided to work together, use our capabilities and the capacity that we freed up to be able to produce, almost, about 55% of the global demand of the monoclonal antibody cocktail that was, as you probably remember, was one of the really important therapeutics for severe hospitalized COVID.
Right. And what are you excited about now in the pipeline that you can talk about?
Oh yes. Well, I mean, there's so much to be excited about. We've got a number of key drugs in front of the FDA right now. But the one that I would touch upon is one where we're waiting for the phase 3 results. This is a drug for Alzheimer's. It works on the amyloid pathway.
Wow.
It's a monoclonal antibody. And we have a long history with this. I mean, it's towards the longer end of research and development in terms of its timescale. So this is an example of a drug that's taken 20 years in its journey to this point.
Amazing.
And we've had failures at various different stages. We've learned from our own experience. We've learned from other companies' drugs and their data about what is the right endpoints, what is the right dose, what is the right titration to get to that optimal dose, because you're trying to with these drugs, like so many, you're trying to reach efficacy but balance the tolerability profile. we've learned a lot about which stage of the disease is optimal to treat, because obviously Alzheimer's has many different stages, and the biology is quite different at those different stages. So we've taken that all together, and now we're running the definitive experiment. When I say definitive experiment, I'm referring to a phase 3 program with 2 phase 3s that will read out in Q4 of this year.
Right.
We could have. I mean, it's incredibly exciting,
Right.
And nail biting.
You are being very modest, and that's about when this podcast will air. So we will definitely put some links on some articles and coverage on that. That is just remarkable, especially to have that long-term focus there. So many people. Alex, I really want to thank you for joining us on the program today. You and I could talk for hours, and maybe we'll come do an on-site thing sometime. But I just, for a lot of listeners out there, kind of wondering what they should be looking at, younger ones, looking at in terms of their career. So people going into college, people graduating, people we teach at Northwestern. It's like a lot of moving things going on in the market right now. And so when they look at 2023 and beyond, what kind of advice would you give them to kind of better prepare themselves for jobs in the future?
Yes, we've got a number of suggestions, and it's very top of my mind in some ways. I have 3 daughters, 2 of them just entering post college the workforce.
I know. I figured this was on your mind too.
They both have exciting new jobs starting shortly. I would say, first and foremost, and this advice I think is more true than ever, which is follow your passion. If you're doing something that you're really excited about, then you're likely to do a really good job with it. So first and foremost, I would say that. In terms of our industry, we touched upon it in this podcast. Data is going to continue to transform every single aspect of our industry. In our conversation, we talked about research and early development, but it's going to touch every single aspect. We're one of the industries where tech is coming latest to.
Yes.
It's disrupted and transformed so many other industries. It's changing our industry. It's changing our industry very, very much for the better. I believe, as I've already said, it's going to change research and early development. It's going to also change the way that patients experience interacting with the industry in a really positive way, and how customers do as well. So data in all its many forms. I would say, familiarity with data science will set you up for a career in this industry really, really well. If you can have
totally
a science
agree.
background and data science.
Great advice, Alexander. Thanks for joining us today. Really appreciate it. You've been listening to the CEO of Genentech, Alexander Hardy, and this is Dean Tobias with the Reboot Chronicles. I want to thank you for joining us today, and we will see you soon.